antiquities, not in the war. And he's a Jesus-like character who wants to part the Jordan River in reverse, who is beheaded by the Romans. And it turns out that he's beheaded by the Romans around the time that James, the brother of John, is beheaded in the book of Acts. I'll come back to that later. But we got a lot of complications there. In my James book, which is why I gave it to you, I sort through a lot of that stuff as best I can. Most people don't even touch it, but I think it is important to touch it. In any case, you see this is wrestling with it here and tells us a few of the props. Now, okay, he also gives us this testimony in Corinthians about how after the resurrection, he appeared first to Cephas, and there he does use Cephas and not Peter, then to the 12, then to 500 brethren at the same time, many of whom have fallen asleep, but the greater part of who were awake. After that, he appeared to James, clearly James, the brother of Jesus. So there was an appearance to James, and he says he was not one of the disciples. He was the brother. He was one of the brothers. So Eusebius knows that much. And then he appeared to the 12, and last of all, he appeared to me. This is in Corinthians. We can take that when we get to it, but I think what Eusebius is saying is that this is a very important testimony. It has to do with the testimony of the resurrection appearances of Jesus, according to how Paul heard it, but there's a problem. First of all, when it says he appears to the 12, at that time there were only 11. So that's a very orthodox material there. And so we have some really difficult thing. I think there's no indication of a first appearance to Cephas anyway, not in the Gospels we have. Though the idea that Cephas is Peter and that Jesus first appeared to Peter is very widespread because of the church in Rome and it's being founded upon Peter. But if you look at the Gospel appearances carefully, there's no indication that Jesus appeared to Peter first. In fact, it seems to have appeared to Mary Magdalene first in some Gospels. It's all very confusing, but the Gospels don't agree with each other on the appearances, and I could take 3 classes sorting out the different appearances there to try to make some sense out of them all. But just to get down to the nitty-gritty here, most scholars think there's an interpolation. They generally reject the second part. But suppose you knock out the first part. First he appeared to James, then all the apostles, not to the 12, then all the apostles, and last of all he appeared to me. That would put James first in line in the priority of appearances. Don't go by Eusebius here. Pick up your Corinthians. It's 1 Corinthians 15. Who has that section? Can someone read it? Who has Corinthians? I don't have it with me. Anyone have that? Can you read it quick before we... And I'll try to sort that out for you. Then we come to this. I'll only keep you a little longer until we get into book 2 here. And we'll get into book 2, man. We're almost finished what we need to do with Eusebius.
Yeah. Do you want 1 Corinthians 15:1?
Find out that where he talks about the appearances there, first of all, to Cephas and so
on. Does he appear to Peter and then to the 12?
Yeah, see, wait, okay, first of all, well, actually the Greek there, according to Eusebius, is actually Cephas, and your translation in English to Peter is assuming Cephas and Peter are the same. Go ahead. First to Cephas.
And then to the 12.
Right.
And after that he appeared to more than 500 of the
Okay,
brothers
we have
at the
that
same
here.
time.
Go on.
Then he appeared to James, then to all the apostles, and last he appeared to me also.
Okay, if you clip those two apart, and say there's been an interpolation, and early scholars, Christian scholars in the 19th century thought that that's what's happened there. That those are two competing testimonies about the appearances of Jesus. Most Orthodox people will take the first one, but there's no indication that the first one is accurate, and certainly the reference to 12 apostles is inaccurate according to the Gospel presentation. There were only 11 at the time of the so-called appearances. So that's a very, shall we say, rote or just a schematic Orthodox presentation. That seems to be the more likely interpolation by someone who didn't like what was originally there. First he appeared to James, then all the apostles, and last of all to me. I appeared as if, he says, to use crude language in the Greek, as if to an abortion, one born out of term, who was not expected, you know. So, all I can tell you is there is that passage in Corinthians. It does refer to Cephas again. There's a problem about Cephas. Is he Peter? Is he the same as Peter? Is he different from Peter? Now, I in my work have argued that there was an appearance to James. The Gospel of the Ebionites, the Hebrews, talk about a first appearance to James. And it is, I have it appended to that collection there. The first appearance to James is appended to that collection there in some of these apocryphal Gospels. But it's very similar to the Gospel of Luke, the appearance on the road to Emmaus in the Gospel of Luke. And there you will recall, perhaps, if you're familiar with Scripture, that is really the first appearance of Jesus to anyone on the road to Emmaus. Oh, if you don't count the Mary Magdalene thing in it. And there are two people on the road to Emmaus, one called Clopas and the other unnamed. And they want to sit and eat with Jesus. And they won't believe it's really him until they've broken bread with him. That's the way the appearance to James is presented in the Hebrews or the Ebionite Gospel that has been reconstructed from people like Eusebius, Jerome, and other sources. Jerome has seen these Gospels and quotes passages from them. In any case, the point being that in Luke, Clopas is clearly a family member. We hear in other presentations that Clopas is the wife of Mary, and the husband of Mary. And Clopas and Mary have these other children, the brothers of Jesus, which is how Jerome develops the idea that they're only cousins, because they're by a different father, according to him, and so on. In any case, Cleophas, is identified in Eusebius, and I think it's true, as the uncle of Jesus. I assume that he's actually the father. In the gospel lines, James the son of Alphaeus is really therefore probably James the son of Cleophas. The A and the C haven't been, confused in transmission over time. And when you get two letters the same, it's usually in linguistics considered to be the same thing. So that's why therefore James the son of Alphaeus and Judas his brother then begins to look like we have Jesus' brothers in the apostle list, even in the synoptic gospel. Now, I'm getting way ahead of myself, but the point that I'm trying to show you here is that the second unnamed person, if the